Hello listeners everywhere. Welcome to the Archive of Audio Antiquities, a voyage into the vaults of wonders on the wireless. In a moment, Simon Exton and Ken Moss will be here to speak to you.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome back to the Archive of Audio Antiquities. I'm Ken Moss.
I'm Simon Exton.
And this time we're listening to the BBC Doctor Who adventure, Death Comes to Time. This was a webcast audio drama based on the long-running British science fiction series Doctor Who. This was produced by the BBC and first broadcast in 5 episodes on the BBC iCult website from the 12th of July 2001. When 2 Time Lords are killed, the 7th Doctor, together with his companion Antimony, must stop the powerful General Tannis' plans for conquest, and Ace is groomed to face a new destiny. Well, this was made 5 years after the TV movie. It was webcast on BBC I at something like 2 frames a second on dial-up. Do you remember it? Were you there for the webcast at the start, Dr. Exton?
I remember it, but I don't think I listened to it at the time. 99, I'd have been really quite busy writing up my PhD thesis, so I caught up with it later.
The President is dead. Long live the Republic. Pilot, begin a curfew.
You are now under Canisian command. This world is blockaded. No help is coming.
Hello, I'm the Doctor.
How did you know where we were?
I didn't. I merely divined where you were most likely to be.
Very interesting. We must pay it a visit.
The Doctor told me about this planet, and he said
Right.
I know what a TARDIS is.
As always, you're not only wrong, but proud of it.
This message is virus-free.
Where am I?
On the edge.
If there be blood on my sword, let it be my own.
There is no strength in death.
Who comes to Mount Plutarch in a cloud of sorrow?
Oh, don't look so surprised. Of course I know who you are. Fire.
Pull yourself together, Lieutenant Colonel. You're a soldier.
Most of the Time Lords have been eliminated.
Open fire!
Thou shalt not break the laws of fission.
Gotcha! Fire tectonic bomb!
You corrupted time!
It says here it was first broadcast in 2001. I've got 99 in my head because I think that's when it was announced. I seem to remember it being announced more or less at the same time as when Big Finish started their Doctor Who's. And it took forever because with this, they made the first episode, they made the pilot in 2001 with the intention of hawking it to Radio 4 to pick up as a series. Radio 4 turned it down, but BBC I picked it up. And they remounted the series. I believe at the time it was the most expensive thing that BBC I had done. Because remounting it and getting everybody back together a year down the line, not the cheapest thing to do. But that's how we got our 5 episodes. And it was the first of 4 webcasts from BBC I. I know you're not mad thrilled by the webcasts, are you?
Honestly, no, not really. There's this, Schalke,
Real Time and Sharda. There was Dreamtime and Infinite Quest, but they were actual animations with the 10th Doctor a few years down the line.
Real Time I thought was better than this, but equally annoyed the fuck out of me because they did the whole this is being done in real time, and it was when 24 was a wildly popular thing. But they cheated because they did a whole load of we'll go back in time, and that doesn't count in the real time thing. So it was, as much as a lot of things in modern Doctor Who, an absolute cobble together with trying to say we've done the thing that we promised without actually doing the thing that they promised.
The temporal wave is due in moments. Where is the Doctor?
What will happen if he's hit by your temporal wave? Well, surely he'll just be swept in here.
Only humans within the structure have been dragged back through the portal. Those on the surface were aged to death in microseconds.
And for a Time Lord, that may take 4 or 5 seconds.
Seconds of pain. Excruciating pain.
My controller, you sounded almost human then.
Getting back to Death Comes to Time, we skipped ahead a couple of years there.
You started.
I know. I really loved this. I was excited by it at the time. I can't say that 56k dial-up was the best medium for this. God bless them, they tried their best.
You think this was their best?
Well,
bless.
In terms of what they could do at the time, taking the animation out of it, we've listened to this as an audio rather than a webcast. Have you actually watched the webcast for this? Because I haven't. No. We don't generally message in between these recording sessions, but you indicated that perhaps it wasn't what you'd remembered.
It kind of is and it isn't. I'd remembered it being fair to middling, and it's fair to middling, but really slow in places. Really, really slow. And this is the Big Finish thing. If you're going to make Doctor Who, and you're going to make it as a classic style Doctor Who, stick to the 25-minute format. It's what works. It's what the show is. Some of these were up at 40-odd minutes.
Were they? Because it didn't feel like it.
Oh, God, it did. Episode 2, God, was glacial. There was an awful lot of point to the episode. That's the sort of monster hunt. Very, very, very slow monster hunt. And the whole point is to introduce the bloke who it turns out to be the new unit. But it's so slow.
Again, maybe I'm coloured by nostalgia, but I really enjoyed all of these. For those that haven't heard it, Death Comes to Time it's basically 5 one-part stories. They are heavily linked, but they're all wildly different from each other. And the Doctor really isn't the central character in this. It's very much a team effort. You've got the 4 Time Lords that are involved in this. There's the Doctor, Casmus, played by Leonard Fenton, the Minister of Chance, played by Stephen Fry, and Tanis, shock, played by John Sessions. You've also got a couple of others in there. But it's very much a Time Lord story without it being a Gallifrey story. And I think they do it very well because we only got a flash of this on telly once in the War Games. When they actually capture the Warlord, is it the Warlord or the War Chief? It's the Warlord, isn't it? And they take him to Gallifrey and they are hard as nails Time Lords. They kill with a thought. These are the Time Lords we see in Death Comes to Time. And I like it. The cast is stellar. There's some really, really good names in this. Jacqueline Pearce has a cameo. Anthony Stewart Head has a cameo. We've got Peggy Batchelor as the Kingmaker. There's Nicholas Courtney pops up in it. John Culshaw, he crops up in quite a few roles. Now, I love John Culshaw because I think that he's a very talented voice artist, but he's very easy to spot. So putting him in multiple roles with the best will in the world, I've said this before, don't do that. And Kevin Eldon's in there as well as the one-time companion Antimony. I think that lifts it. The production values of this are very good. I said a few episodes ago that it would be good if Big Finish were a little bit more risky with the sound effects. This is how to do it. The soundscape bathes you in this. And the cast really lift it that level above. All right, they've got BBC money to do it, but it does lift it above. There's also a liberal peppering of classical music in there as sort of interludes and background music. It works really well.
Our weapons don't work! Aim for the bridge of the gunship! Aim for the bridge!
Still no effect! I don't think we're even penetrating their armor. We could use mind charges.
They won't work either. I can see what's happening. Stand by. All ships, this is Admiral Metna. We're having no impact on their armor with our weapons. If they reach the planet, you know what will happen. We did our best. Now let's go out fighting. Disable your containment fields. Prepare for suicide runs. Aim for the bridge of the ships, and may you find the one.
Well, you're more of a fan of classical music than I am, so that bit didn't really appeal. Although I didn't really notice the incidental music, which means that it's okay. I only really notice incidental music if it's very bad or very good.
Which really surprises me with this, because it's the one thing that stood out as being quite different.
Yeah, different isn't necessarily good. Death of the Daleks. It was okay. I wasn't blown away by it. I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was very slow. It needed a heavy editing pen. It was a really interesting take on the Time Lords that ignored all continuity that had gone on before. So basically, this was Chibnall with a decent plot. Everything that's happened before, all this Gallifrey nonsense, we're going to fuck it all out the window. Quite a nice sci-fi story, but I don't think it worked terribly well as Doctor Who, because it ignored all the previous history of the Time Lords. And by that time, you'd had the Deadly Assassin, and you'd had the Five Doctors, and you'd had Arc of Infinity, and you'd had the Invasion of Time. And whether you think they're particularly good stories or not, that was the established history. And this ignores it completely.
See, I'm not convinced that it does. Or the way I've been reading it is it takes fragments of what we've seen in the past. Say, for sake of example, the powers in the War Games, which were never seen on screen again. And there's a reason why those have never been seen again. They're not supposed to be used at all, except when they are. And this is one of those scenarios. Admittedly, the ending appears to be the death of the Seventh Doctor, which directly contradicts the TV movie, if nothing else. Although it's heavily implied that he survives. And my own personal headcanon, you're going to love this, is that the death of the Seventh Doctor in this is why the very first scene with McCoy in The Sirens of Time, he stood at the console, sort of, what just happened there? What's going on?
The cloister bell? Oh no. Who? Who is that? I think I should change the coordinates. That's better. Why did I do that?
So that's it. That's the Sirens of Time lifting him out of time at the moment of his death, ready for a lovely fresh adventure with the temper on. Bosh. Solve that one for you. And cue expletives.
So you agree with me that it's fanfic?
What, Death Comes to Time?
Well, if you're tying it into Big Finish, then that's fanfic.
Now.
Before you came out with all that nonsense, I couldn't have argued that this was fanfic because it was made for and transmitted on the BBC. But tying it into Big Finish makes it fanfic.
Big Finish has been transmitted on the BBC. Makes it hard. Oops.
Right, okay. So they've made some stuff that isn't fanfic, but the vast majority of their output is.
Let's not get into this. Please don't make me play the repetition klaxon. Again.
Fuck up the editing however you want.
Getting into the production of this thing, it was a bit of a tortured production, but it got there in the end. But we've got Dan Friedman.
It appears to think it does.
Well, Dan Friedman is the producer on this, and the writer is Colin Meek, which is widely recognised to be a pseudonym for Dan Friedman. But also tossed in there is Nick Romero. Now, where do we know Nick Romero from?
Same place we know Dan Friedman from, the joyous ectoplasm.
Now, stylistically, they're worlds apart. This is very, very serious, although I have to say, towards the end of episode 5, there's that whole dead ringer spitting image, American soldiers thing. I think it really undermined itself by having that scene in it, to be honest.
Now, Mr. President, do I take it that you and your entire planet surrender?
Sir, it's the Prime Minister from London, sir. In England, sir?
Right.
Mr. President, stand by. We have countermeasures.
Countermeasures? What the hell kind of countermeasures?
Gunship, fire tectonic bomb.
Activate countermeasures.
There is a difference between this takes itself seriously and this is serious.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it takes itself seriously.
Well, you just did.
No, I said it undermines itself. That's not to say it takes itself seriously, but all the gravitas is sort of evaporated by that silly scene with the American president played by John Coleshaw. And then another comedy turn of Nick Romero as Tony Blair. And, yeah, bit dead ringers, that bit. I didn't like it. You could have skipped all that and gone straight to the Brigadier. Although even that pissed me off, because why would he refer to himself as the Brigadier, as if he's some sort of... This is Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart that you're dealing with here. Now, fuck off. Don't introduce yourself as the Brigadier. Nobody else thinks of you that way.
Everybody thinks of him that way.
Yes, fans do, and the people at UNIT do.
And the Doctor does.
But introducing yourself to people that you're about to go to battle with, I'm the Brigadier, you just wouldn't. It's like... Anyway, minor niggle, but I thought that was a bit self-congratulatory, that.
And you thought that was the only self-congratulatory thing in this?
I just thought it was a nice, interesting take on the Doctor Who mythos, to be honest. I don't think that this really patted itself on the back at any point. Some of the dialogue was excellent in it, and the particular stuff with Casmus and the Kingmaker, I don't know whether they were original sort of thoughts or philosophies, but dropping them in here, it worked bloody well. The whole painting thing, the whole Circassius thing, the story told by Casmus, these characters of 2 and 3 dimensions, and the Time Lords were gods of 4 dimensions, hence gods of the 4th.
Yeah, it did take itself very seriously without an awful lot of justification at times.
Oh, you're a miserable bastard. I did like the writing on it. I've got to be honest, yeah. I would have liked to have seen more of a Big Finish be this serious with Doctor. I don't like silly Doctor Who. I don't like Doctor Who that sends itself up or sends the format up, or it's just running around with silly voices and poking. I just don't like any of that. This was a proper, as borderline serious as we've got for a story. I think it worked very well. And there were a lot of characters and a lot of plot strands all tied in together at the end. They'd all been running through parallel. How are they all connected? And then they slowly do weave together. Now, I like that. Stuff in the background with the Saints, why was that? And it was all tied in with the black holes and the wormholes dreams.
It took a very long time to get there.
It's only 5 episodes, though.
Yeah, but some of them are 45 minutes long.
Just looking at this, the full adventure has been released on an expanded and re-edited edition on CD, so you've got, we do have extra bits on the CD. Congratulations.
Well, they needed to fuck them out and if there was an original cut that was 25 minutes an episode, then that would be 1,000,000 times better than what I listened to. I listened to the version that's on Audible.
I suspect it's the same one on CD. Just touching briefly, there was a second release of this on MP3 CD, which involved all the animations. I did buy it, and I've never been able to get it play satisfactorily. It cost about 20 quid on release, which really pissed me off, because what would have been better for me, and I have said this before, why didn't they just put it on DVD? It would have been cheaper and better and more versatile. Again, I don't suppose you give 2 rats' arses, but that to me, I always thought that was odd. Because did you bother with the Power of the Daleks photo novel and CD?
Yes. The Power of the Daleks, I loved it.
But in terms of what it costs, would it not have been better on DVD?
Yes, absolutely. But it's Power of the Daleks, I loved it. This wasn't, by any stretch of the imagination, Power of the Daleks.
Yeah, there's not a lot of love for this on your side of the microphone, is there?
I don't actively dislike it. I just don't particularly like it. It's a mediocre story that takes itself far too seriously. The bits with Ace I liked. And that, I think, fits in with the way she was supposed to get turned into a Time Lord during the White Darkness and things like that in the season that got cancelled. She was supposed to be written out by going to Gallifrey to become a Time Lord, wasn't she?
Yes. And I think that was touched on in... Wasn't there a little cut scene on one of the DVDs, one of the collection? Wasn't she shown then to be a Time Lord, but a Time Lord running this business empire? Or have I made that up?
I think you've made that up.
Oh, I'm conflating it with Leela. There was one with Leela on Gallifrey.
Yeah, it's the whole Gallifrey falls and she's rescued from it. Why is she rescued from it?
Reasons?
No, it's actually pretty well done, and it's her wanting to die with Gallifrey, and somebody or other saying, you need to live so that Gallifrey can live, or is it you need to rescue Romana? Or there's a decent reason why she is persuaded to escape when Gallifrey is destroyed.
The Daleks are victorious.
You are wrong!
Identify!
I am Leela, warrior of the Sever-Team and of Gallifrey, friend of the Doctor. While we live, your victory is short-lived.
Your statements are meaningless. The Doctor will be destroyed. His acolytes will be exterminated.
That is not how this ends.
Alert! Transport device detected! Exterminate!
But even that Ace thing, there's been criticism that it doesn't really tie in with all the other exits of Ace. Frankly, there's now so many exits of Ace in the various media. I don't think any of them are compatible with each other. So it's a whole... Ace just died and was written out a million different ways a million times. So, yeah, I don't have a particular problem with it. Of all of them, I think that the going to Gallifrey and training to be a Time Lord, the Dragonfire version of Ace it's just completely unbelievable. The survival version of Ace, yes, I can see it, why she's grown up a bit by then and why she could be moulded into a Time Lord.
I think, bottom line, my problem with things like this is a chunk of my problem with Chibnall and the whole fan being able to write out their personal theory. It's just, I want this thing that's been burning a hole in my fan brain for years, and I don't care that it doesn't fit in with anything else at all. And it was a nice story. It was a nice take on the Time Lords. It would have fitted in with that. What were those alternate stories that Big Finish did? Full Fathom 5, things like that. The Unbound.
Oh, the Unbound, yeah.
It would have made a nice Unbound because it was a what if, but as a, quote, realistic or canonical part of the story, it is so at odds with all the other established history that it doesn't work. It's like a lot of the Chibnall stuff. If you want to write things like In the Forest of the Night and the fucking Moon's an Egg and all of that, that just do not fit into the history or the canon or the feel of the show. If you want to write that kind of wank, go and do it, but don't lump it in with the Doctor Who stuff. Again, I don't think the underlying story of these hyper-intelligent and incredibly powerful beings that are massively powerful but can't use their powers and bound by a code and have this training program, a bit like sort of Amber's Walking the Pattern. If you want to have all of that, fantastic, but don't call it Doctor Who, because at that point in the show's history, this is not anywhere near what the Time Lords were. And I think that was my biggest problem with it.
Were the New Adventures not veering towards this sort of thing? A slightly darker Doctor Who?
Yeah, but they still kept the history there. I mean, I'm not saying that I have a problem with it being a bit on the dark side, and I had a problem with Antimony being ripped apart and then realising that he's a robot. That bit I thought was a bit overdone, but okay. My problem is I have a fan theory, but it involves pissing all the rest of established show canon out the window. So fuck the rest of it, established show canon. No, if you're a decent enough writer, you can fit the two together. And if you don't, the problem is the plot that you've come up with, not the 30-year history that's gone before you.
Got to be honest, I have no problems with the continuity. Particularly where the Seventh Doctor's concerned, I don't think any of this is beyond the realms of fantasy where that incarnation's concerned. I think it would be problematic if it was, I don't know, say the 5th, 6th, 8th. That's just not their personas. Running errands for the Time Lords, being the arch manipulator. It fits in very well with the 7th.
Yeah, that aspect of it does, but the fact that they've just completely pissed Gallifrey up the wall, and at this point in the show's history, Gallifrey is a big important thing that you can't just ignore, and that's what this does.
Well, Gallifrey is there in the background. It's never directly involved or referenced, but the Time Lords as an entity are steeped all the way through this, and I think done quite well in that quite a powerful way.
Yeah, but completely different to the Time Lords that we've seen up until this point.
I know, but I'd far rather see this version of the Time Lords than doddery old men.
But that is absolutely irrelevant. This isn't the version that we had up until this point. This is exactly the point that I'm making. I don't think it's a bad concept. It's just not Doctor Who, because it ignores all of the Time Lord established history that has gone before this point.
I'm not sure it ignores it. I just think it looks at a different tranche of the Time Lords that are off on missions and...
No. It is very clear that these are the last Time Lords.
You see, I took that as hyperbole from the Kingmaker. That, you know, they are the last of the Time Lords. The Time Lords are no more. And
no, that's peppered right the way through it. All of them say that.
Yeah, but I took that figuratively rather than literally, that they are the last of the Time Lords. The next generation are coming, rather than we are literally the last of the Time Lords.
But there's that whole big thing about there are only 3 people left in the universe who can understand this, and Tanis having to kill off all the surviving Time Lords. And he gets rid of those 2 sort of almost off screen. And then you have the Minister and the Doctor as last man standing. There's nothing about, oh, and by the way, there's a whole planet full of them lurking about in the background. This comes across clearly as Time Lords are done and gone. You are the last of this current tranche, you've had your time, and Ace is the first of the new ones.
Yeah, different reading, that's all. I didn't see it that way, but I can see where you're coming from.
So you basically ignored the plot.
It's not that I've ignored the plot, I've just taken the words in a different way than you have. This, I mean, if nothing else, this thing is littered with ambiguity and little lines that, what the hell does that mean? Yeah, when they're talking about Tanis, what do you mean, there's another? Another what? What are you talking about? And it's never explained, that line.
You see, I don't think it is ambiguous. I don't think it's a clever enough plot to be ambiguous. It just doesn't fit in with established history at that point. That doesn't make it ambiguous, it just makes it wrong.
Why not deal in absolutes?
Well, if you're writing something that is absolute and is describing absolutes, which this does, then you have to treat it as an absolute. And it's an absolute that completely contradicts all of the Time Lord history up until that, and actually all the Time Lord history now. Even Chibnall didn't do the, oh, well, we'll fuck Gallifrey off and it's never going to have anything to do with it, and we're all produced by running through this cave. And that's simplifying massively. I did like the way that they did the Ace thing, and it's a whole going through a series of trials, in much the same way as Amber's Walking the Pattern is. There are lots of these journeyman stories. As that goes, it was pretty good. What it wasn't was in keeping with any of the history of Doctor Who up until that point. And that's the problem I have with it. It would be an okay story if they hadn't slapped the name Doctor Who on it, because it doesn't fit in with any of the history. This is my fan wanky moment, and I don't care what's gone before. And that is Chibnall all over.
Earworms.
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends.
5.
Oh my. Right.
I was bored by chunks of it. I was irritated by chunks of it, because the whole, you want to write a science fiction story that is sort of based on the Time Lords but completely fucking off all the history. Fair enough. Go and do that. But just don't call it Doctor Who, because it isn't. And the plot wasn't anywhere near as clever as it would like to think it was.
Whereas I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give this a 9. I really, really loved this. I loved it when it was transmitted, and I've listened to it quite a few times in between then and now. I must admit, it's been a while since I've heard it, but I went into it wondering whether it'd stand up. For me, it does. I like the style of it. I wish we'd had more audio Doctor Who like this. I wish a lot more Big Finish had been this level of world building. The characters are certainly fleshed out, which, let's be honest, Big Finish characters aren't always. And given the size of the cast for each episode, they're not massive casts for each episode, so it can be done with the writing. You don't need to have a huge army of characters in order to create a deep landscape. So, yeah, I love this. I wish we'd seen more Doctor Who of this ilk. I take your points on board about the mythology and the history of the show and changing aspects of it. It does do that, unashamedly. But bottom line, no, I'd rather have Doctor Who with this flavour, this tone in future. Don't think we're going to get it.
I mean, I actually agree with you that, need for a giant editing pen aside, I would much prefer to have seen Doctor Who like this, where there is thought behind it and there is some vaguely interesting concepts, and they desperately needed to get somebody who could write as well as just have the occasional idea. But I'd much have preferred that to the Doctor Who by numbers big finish that we ended up with.
What have you got for us this week to recommend as podcast of the week?
Well, podcast of the week this week was a recommendation to me from a friend of the show, Mikey Smith.
Ooh.
I hate Doctor Who.
I know you do, but what's the podcast called?
I hate Doctor Who. It's a podcast where the host introduces people who either don't like or have never seen Doctor Who to classic stories to try and persuade them why they should watch it. Spoilers? Doesn't always work. And Mikey himself is on an episode. I was listening to it today. It's about Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Within about the first 10 minutes, he calls one of his co-hosts What's not to love?
And with that, we will wrap up. Next time, it's Christmas, and we are back in Agatha Christie territory.
Jingle your bells.
Indeed. Hercule Poirot's coming to visit, and it's the adventure of the Christmas pudding.
And it's John Moffat as Hercule Poirot. Oh.
My favourite Radio Poirot by a long way.
Agree completely. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't actually heard it in years. I listen to the Moffat Poirots quite often, but it's usually the big ones that I listen to. So your Halloween Party and Cat Among the Pigeons. That was marvellous.
You'll be unsurprised to hear the two Christmas ones do get fairly regular outings at Christmas. Not every year, but they're fairly regular. And it's Christie, you know what you're going to get.
Yes, and it's marvellous.
Oh, I'm very much looking forward to giving this a re-listen. So if you want to listen along with us, it's The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding. It's out there on several streaming sites and archives of the internet. Please go and give it a listen in advance.
Yes, I'm listening to it on Audible.
Oh, there's always the pay-per-view option, yes.
Yeah, I don't mind paying for my entertainment if it encourages creation of more entertainment, and Audible do make some pretty good original dramas.
I always forget about Audible in favour of my CD collection. It's quite old-fashioned these days, but no, Audible is a great resource.
See, I don't really have anything that can play CDs apart from Alan's car, and there isn't any way in hell I am going to be able to listen to The Underwater Menace while we're driving. I would get about 3 minutes and it's turn this shit off and put me some music on.
But The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding is not shit.
No, it's not.
And we would urge you to go and listen to it.
Spoilers, neither of us are going to mark this one down. But it will be nice, cheery Christmas listening. Happy, happy days.
Absolutely. Until next time, boys and girls, ta-ta.
Bye now.
The archive of audio antiquities featured Simon Exton and Ken Moss, and the announcer was Jenny at Blue Box 99. All featured soundtracks are the property of their respective producers, and no infringement of copyright is intended. Title music was by Edward White, and the programme was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.